leaving the old world behind. The wild calls my name.
Episode 3, Part 1. Tyone Country, Water, Steel, and Patience. August 1st, 1979. By the time August came around, we weren't travelers anymore. We were living it. The road was behind us, and now everything depended on what we could fix, carry, or figure out for ourselves. It had been raining for days. Not a hard rain, just steady. The kind that seeps into everything. Into your clothes, your tools, your mood if you let it. I was working on the cat that morning, not making much progress. Hard to get ahead when everything's wet and nothing quite wants to cooperate. Then Bill showed up with his brother-in-law Jim and a 55-gallon drum for fuel. That lifted things a little. Fuel meant movement. Movement meant we weren't stuck. We decided to move camp down to the Little Nelchina River. The water was high, higher than I liked, but that didn't change much. Out there, you don't wait for perfect conditions. You wait for possible. Sylvia looked out over the river when we got there. Looks deeper than last year, she said. It is, I told her. She nodded once. That was enough. No complaints. Just understanding what that meant. We talked it through that evening. Take the equipment upriver. Move when the weather gives us a window. Don't rush it. Don't force it. That was the plan. And like most plans out there, it started changing almost immediately. August 2nd, two fellows came through, Dale and Ron Stevenson. Chugiak boys, working claims on Daisy Creek. They needed load binders. I had two. Out there, that's how things work. You help when you can. I handed them over. Bring them back when you're done, I said. They said they would. I believed them. August 3rd, more supplies came in. Groceries, fuel. We moved again, settling into the Little Nelchina campground proper. It wasn't much, but it was something like a base. August 4th, that's when the swamp buggy started acting up again. Carburetor trouble. Always something. We took it upriver anyway. Water came up past my waist in places. Cold enough to bite through you. The buggy handled the rocks well, but that carburetor, it just wouldn't behave. So we took it out to the Nelchina gas station. Henry was there. Tim too. Good men. Men who knew machines the way a doctor knows bones. They worked at it with me, hands black with grease, talking it through piece by piece. Could be that cross shaft, Tim said. Henry nodded. Losing air somewhere. We patched what we could. Good enough to keep going. That phrase again. It followed us everywhere. August 5th. A quieter day. Joe stopped by, working on his plugs. I fired up the welder, ran the generator, shaped a bead breaker. Small jobs. Necessary jobs. The kind that keep things from becoming big problems later. But in the back of my mind, I already knew we were going to Anchorage. August 6th. We left early. Long drive. Hard to find what we needed. That carburetor wasn't easy to match. But by the end of the day, we had it. Got back just before dark. Tired but satisfied. Sylvia handed me a plate. You look like you've been chasing parts all day, she said. Feels like it too. She smiled a little. Eat. That was her way. Steady. Always steady. August 7th, 1979. That was the day things started to remind us who was in charge. We worked the morning loading supplies. Fuel. Equipment. Tools. Everything had its place, and everything had to be tied down right. No shortcuts. Not out there. After dinner, I installed the new carburetor. Tuned it. Listened to it. It sounded right. Better than it had. Think that'll do it? Sylvia asked. I wiped my hands on a rag. It'll have to. We headed down to the river that evening and started upstream. At first, it felt good, like we were finally making progress. Then the buggy lost its pull. Front end wouldn't engage. Just like that. I kept moving with the cat, about 400 yards ahead, until I found a gravel bar solid enough to stop on. Unhooked. Turned back. The buggy sat there in the water, looking smaller than it should have. Like it knew. I backed the cat down, hooked onto it, and pulled it up onto the sand. We took a look. Didn't take long to find the problem. Allen screw. Key. Gone from the universal joint. Just gone. Jerry shook his head. That's not good. No, I said. But it's fixable. So we turned around. Headed back downstream. No use pushing forward when something's already broken. That's how you get into real trouble. We made it back to base camp just as Bob and Karen Rudbeck came in with their daughter. Good timing. Good people. We sat for a bit, talked, shared what we'd seen. Then I got back to work, fixed the key, checked the plugs, adjusted the carburetor again. By the time I finished, everything seemed right, or right enough. We tied Mike, the dog, under the trailer to keep him out of trouble. Didn't want him wandering into someone else's camp. That night, I was tired in a way that sits deep, not just muscles, everything. And lying there, listening to the river, I remember thinking, we hadn't even gotten started yet. August 8th, we were up early. Sylvia had breakfast ready. Hot food makes a difference, more than people realize. Then we headed upstream again. The river didn't make it easy. Big boulders at first, then smaller rock, then mud, then channels that shifted without warning. Sometimes the water came up over the cat's fenders, sometimes higher. I had to stand to drive just to see where we were going. The fan would hit the water and throw it back in sheets. Then the belt would slip, then catch again. The cat was working hard, too hard. We were pushing it. I knew that, but we kept going. At one point, we hit a dead-end tree but lodged in the riverbed. Got the cat stuck. Had to bring the buggy up and winch it out. Then the buggy ran out of gas. Jerry looked at me. I looked at him. Nobody said much. Just another problem. We solved it, because that's what you do. Later, we came to a deep hole. 5 feet, maybe more. Water dark and slow. Jerry looked at it. You think it'll go? I studied a long second, then nodded. Only one way to find out. The buggy went in, disappeared almost to the top. Then, slow, steady, it came through. That felt like a win. We made camp on a gravel bar that night. Cooked a good supper. Ate well. One of the fellows mentioned grizzlies. Didn't sit well with him. I handed Bob the shotgun before turning in. My hands cramp at night, I said. You'll handle it better. He nodded. Didn't make a big deal of it. That's the kind of trust you build out there. Not by talking, by doing. And by the time I laid down that night, listening to the river moving past in the dark, I could feel it building. Not trouble exactly. Not yet. But something ahead. Waiting. And it was coming soon. In a part 1. Part 2. Rising Water. August 9th, 1979. Morning came clear. That alone felt like a gift. Sylvia had breakfast ready before the sun had fully burned through the mist. Coffee, eggs, something warm to hold on to before stepping back into cold water and steel. She handed me a plate and studied my face for a second. You didn't sleep much. Enough, I said. She gave me a look, not arguing, not agreeing, just noting it. Jerry and I took the swamp buggy upriver first, scouting the trail. It looked better than the day before. Less rock, fewer obstructions. Still wet, but workable. When we came back, Sylvia was already packing things down, moving with that steady rhythm she had. Never rushed, never idle. You think we can make better time today? She asked. Some I said. Not easy, but better. She nodded. That's something. We serviced the machines, ate a quick meal, and started out. The trail held for a while. Then it didn't. Rock fields again. Washed out paths. Gravel bars that ended where they shouldn't. We crossed the river more times than I could count. Back and forth, reading the current, looking for ground that would hold. Tracks everywhere. Moose, wolf, caribou. At one bend, we saw where 2 men had come out for Daisy Creek. One of them I recognized. He'd been in Eureka earlier that season. He looked worn down, tired in a way that doesn't come from one bad day. Had to pack an axle out on my back, he told us. No choice. Sylvia listened quietly while he spoke. Then she handed him a cup of coffee. Didn't say much. Didn't need to. That's how she was. She saw what people needed before they asked. We moved on. That afternoon, the river widened and slowed, which usually means one thing. Deep water. We stopped on a gravel bar to look it over. The surface didn't tell you much. Dark water rarely does. Jerry kicked at the edge with his boot. Hard to read, he said. I didn't answer right away. Just watched the current. Sylvia stepped up beside me. You trust it? She asked. I shook my head slightly. No. She folded her arms, looking out across it. How bad? I glanced at the cat, then at the buggy, then back at the water. Bad enough we don't rush it. She nodded once. That's what I thought. No argument. No push. Just agreement. We took it slow, one machine at a time. The buggy went first. Water climbed up the sides, higher, almost to the top. For a moment, it looked like it might stall. Sylvia stood still behind me, watching. not saying anything. Then the engine caught steady again. The buggy pulled through. I exhaled. Didn't realize I'd been holding that. The cat was heavier, slower. I took in carefully. Water surged up over the fenders, then higher. Cold spray hitting back off the fan. The belt slipping, grabbing, slipping again. Halfway through, I felt it. That moment where you're committed. No turning back. I kept it steady, didn't force it, didn't hesitate. And then the ground rose. Tracks caught, and we were through. On the far side, Sylvia let out a breath. Don't like that, she said. Neither do I. But we kept moving, because that's what the day required. By late afternoon, the river began to change again. Narrower channels, faster water, more obstacles, and more chances to get it wrong. We made camp that night on another gravel bar. Simple meal, not much talking. Sylvia sat beside the stove, watching the light fade off the water. After a while, she said, "It feels different up here." I looked over. "How do you mean?" She took her time answering. "Further away," she said. "Not just distance." I knew what she meant. There's a point where you stop feeling connected to anything behind you. Not homesick, not regret, just removed. "We're committed now," I said. She gave a small smile. "I figured that out." Later, as we were settling in, she added, "Just don't get in a hurry." I looked at her. "I won't," and I meant it. But the country doesn't always give you that choice. August 10th, 1979. We started early again. Clouds coming back in. By early afternoon, we reached the trail up over what we called the White Hill. That's where things turned. The cat couldn't pull the grade. Not with the load we had. I tried once. Felt it strain. Backed off. Tried again. Same result. Jerry looked at me. "Winch it." I nodded. "Only way." So we did. Slow. Piece by piece. Dragging that weight uphill. Even then, it wasn't enough. The mud was too deep. The ground too soft. We had to offload. Plywood. 2x4s. Anything we could spare. Sylvia climbed down and started helping without being asked. Carrying what she could. Stacking it clear of the trail. I glanced at her. "You don't have to." She cut me off, calm as ever. "Yes, I do." That was the end of that. We worked until we got the cat up over the worst of it. But the trail beyond, it wasn't good. I walked ahead. Needed to see it for myself. 2 miles. Mud. Washouts. More hills. Too much. When I got back, Sylvia was sitting on a crate, hands resting in her lap. Waiting. I shook my head. "We're not making it through. Not like this." She didn't look disappointed. Just thoughtful. "Then we change it," she said. Simple as that. So we turned around. Left the trailer. Headed back down to the Little Melchina. That night, we made a new plan. Steal back at the highway. We'd build a sled. Haul what we needed in stages. Not fast, but possible. Sylvia listened as we talked it through. Then said, "That'll work." And that was enough. Out there, a good plan doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be something you can believe in. And as we settled in that night, with the river moving steady beside us, and the air starting to turn colder, I could feel it again, that sense that something was building. We'd been tested. We'd adapted. We kept moving. But we hadn't paid the real cost yet. And up ahead, waiting for us, was a stretch of country that would take everything we had. In a part 3, mud, steel, and turning back. August 11th, 1979. We didn't waste time that morning. Once a plan changes out there, you move on it before something else does the changing for you. We loaded what we needed from the trailer and headed back down the Nelchina toward the overland trail, the one that would take us out toward mile 130 on the Glen Highway. The idea was simple enough. Get to the steel, build the sled, come back better prepared. Simple, but not easy. The trail climbed almost immediately. Steep in places, narrow, soft under the surface. The kind of ground that looks solid until it isn't. We hadn't gone far before we saw a helicopter working the area. 3 men below it taking rock samples. I watched them a moment. Different kind of work, but just as dependent on the land giving you a chance. Then we moved on. About 1.5 miles in, we hit the swamp. It didn't look like much at first. Flat, dark, still. I slowed the cat. "Let's walk it," I said. Bob and I stepped out, boots sinking almost immediately. Not good. We picked a line as best we could. Marked it. Came back. I eased the cat forward. Slow. Careful. Didn't matter. It dropped. Not all at once, but enough. Tracks sinking. Weight settling. No forward motion. Stuck. Jerry brought the buggy up. Set the winch. Pulled steady. The cat came free, but not easily. We tried again. Different line. Same result. That's when you stop forcing it. Bob and I walked it again, further this time, taking more care. You don't rush decisions in a place like that. When I got back to the machine, Sylvia was standing there, watching the ground like she could read it. "You'll get it across," she said. Not encouragement, not doubt, just quiet certainty. I nodded. Just have to do it right. And we did, piece by piece, backing, adjusting, testing each stretch before committing the weight. It took time, more than I liked, but we made it through. On the other side, I shut the cat down for a minute. Let idle. Listen to it. Sylvia handed me a cup. "Tea," she said. I took it, hand still stiff. "Feels like we're working for every foot," I said. She gave a small nod. "We are." And that was enough said. We kept going. More hills, more mud, smaller bogs that tried to grab hold if you weren't paying attention. At Crooked Creek, I had to stop and put a pin back into the track. Not a big repair, but out there, even small things matter. Everything takes longer. Everything costs more. We pressed on. At one point, we passed 3 men running Volkswagen buggies. Light rigs. Quick. They waved as they went by. Different kind of travel. Different kind of risk. We kept to ours. By the time we reached the road, it was getting dark. We'd been in it longer than we should have. Saw a cow moose just before we broke out, standing quiet at the edge of the trees, watching us like we didn't belong there. Maybe we didn't. We drove the last 8 miles back to the little Nelchina campground. Set up Jerry's tent. Sylvia had a pot of beans going. We ate with Bob and Karen, sitting around their fire. Shared a couple drinks. Talked a little. Not much. Most of us were too tired. That kind of tired where even talking feels like work. But it was a good kind of tired too. We made progress. Not forward maybe, but necessary. That counts. August 12th. The next day was quieter. Bob and Karen left for the Kenai. Fishing. Visiting. Their daughter Jackie with them. The camp felt different after they pulled out. Quieter. More space between things. Sylvia noticed it too. "Feels empty," she said. "Just us again," I told her. She nodded. Didn't seem bothered. But she felt it. We rested more that day. Worked on the buggy later. Took a bath. Ate well. Small things, but they matter. They keep you steady. That evening, we went up to Nelchino Lodge. They'd helped us before, fixing tires, offering what they could. Good people. You remember places like that. August 13th. Back to work. The buggy still wasn't right. Something off in the way it ran. Hard to pin down. We worked it over until after dinner. Then went down to mile 130 again. Walked the cat out from where we'd left it. Gravel pit. Better footing. Brought the buggy and Jerry's car back to camp. Sylvia had supper ready when we got back. She always did, no matter how the day went. And that steadiness. It starts to matter more the longer you're out there. Because everything else changes. August 14th. We moved to the Nelchino Lodge. Henry and Betty offered us a place to stay. A small cabin. Not fancy, but solid. Dry. After weeks of damp ground and makeshift camps, it felt like something close to luxury. Sylvia stepped inside, looked around, and smiled just a little. "This'll do," she said. And it did. August 15th, 18th. Those days blurred together. Work, repair, adjustment. We tore into the buggy motor. Unloaded and reorganized equipment. Worked on the cabin, getting a stove hooked up, making it livable. Trip into Palmer and Anchorage for parts. More time than I wanted to spend, but necessary. One evening, there was a gathering at the lodge. People coming and going. Stories being told. Sylvia fit right in, talking with Betty, helping where she could. She gathered rose hips and cranberries with the kids. Came back with red hands and a quiet satisfaction. "Winter won't catch us unprepared," she said. I believed her. That same night, Mike, the dog, brought in 3 ducks. Blue-winged teal. One of them dove under. Stayed down. Mike went after it. Completely out of sight. Came back up with it in his mouth. Sylvia laughed at that. A real laugh. The kind you don't hear often enough out there. We ate well that night. And for a few hours, things felt almost easy. But it doesn't last. It never does. August 19th. Back to work again. Welding on the cat. adjusting valves, putting a chimney through the cabin roof. Jerry went into Anchorage. I made a call back to Minnesota. Roger Sheehan checked on the farm. It felt strange, talking about a place that far away, like it belonged to someone else. Sylvia listened while I told her what he'd said, then just nodded. "That's good," she said, and we let it go at that. Because out here, what matters is what's in front of you. And what was in front of us wasn't getting easier. The machines still weren't right. The trail still wasn't forgiving. And every plan we made seemed to lead to another problem we hadn't seen coming. But we kept at it, because that's the only way through a place like that. You don't conquer it. You don't outsmart it. You just stay with it. Long enough, steady enough, and hope that's enough. And a part 3. Part 4. Leaving the comfort behind. August 20th, 1979. By the 20th, we were back into the rhythm of work. Not the kind that feels like progress. The kind that just keeps things from falling apart. I spent most of the day on the cat, fixing, adjusting, checking things I'd already checked, then checking them again. Sylvia was outside most of the afternoon, cutting and stacking wood, moving between the cabin and the stove like she'd been doing it her whole life. At one point, I stepped out and watched her for a minute. She had a rhythm to it. Steady, efficient. She caught me looking. "What?" she said. "Nothing," I answered. "Just thinking." She set another piece of wood down. "Well," she said, "don't think too long. Sup'll be ready." That was her way of saying, stay with the day. So I did. August 21st. More work. Bob and Karen came back through with Jackie. Good to see them again. Familiar faces start to mean more the longer you're out there. My brother Jerry came back too, his car giving him trouble. So now we had one more machine to worry about. We worked on everything. The cat, the buggy, his car. Sylvia kept things moving in the background. Meals, water, keeping the place livable. None of it dramatic. All of it necessary. August 22nd, 23rd. Those days passed in a blur of small jobs. Sylvia spent time gathering berries again. Blueberries. Rose hips. She came back one afternoon with her hands stained and a look of quiet satisfaction. "Winter won't catch us short," she said again. I believed her more each time she said it. I finished getting the cat back together. Still more welding to do, but close. Close is a dangerous place to be. Makes you think you're ready when you're not. August 24th. We drove to Glen Allen. Registered to vote. Made it official. We weren't just passing through anymore. We were there. Sylvia picked up groceries. Jerry got his hunting license. We ate in town, then came back and finished what work we could on the cat. That night, Sylvia sat quiet for a while, then said, "Feels different when you sign your name somewhere." I looked over. "How's that?" She thought about it. "Like you're not leaving right away." I nodded. "Not planning to." She gave a small smile. "I know, but there was something else in it too. Something unspoken. The understanding that staying comes with a cost." August 25th, 26th. We worked the buggy again. Still fighting it. Still not quite right. Tim came by and helped adjust the valves. Good man to have around. Knows his way through a problem. By Sunday, we had both machines together. Or as together as they were going to be. We cleaned up. Showered. Took a little time. Sylvia sat outside that evening, looking toward the mountains. "You ready to go back out?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. Then, "Have to be." She nodded. That was enough. August 27th. That was a turning point. We moved the cat out to the gravel pit at the trailhead, positioned it where we could get back to it. Then we drove to Anchorage and sold the truck. That truck had brought us all the way from Minnesota, held everything we had at the start of this. And just like that, it was gone. The man who bought it didn't really know how to drive it. I rode along with 2 of his workers, showed them how to shift it, how to handle it. Standing there afterward, watching it go, I felt it. Not regret. Not exactly. Just the sense that we'd crossed another line. No easy way back now. When we got back to Nelchina, it was late. Sylvia didn't say much. But that night, she stayed close. And I understood why. August 28th. We started organizing for the next push. Fuel, food, tools. Everything had to be thought through again. Sylvia baked that day. Big trail cookies. Packed with everything you'd want when you're cold and tired. The men liked them. So did I. She made bread too. Did laundry. Kept everything moving. By the end of the day, she looked tired. More than she let on. I said so. You should rest. She shook her head. Plenty of time for that later. I didn't argue, but I noticed. August 29th, 1979. We packed and loaded. Ate at the lodge. Rain started again. We left at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Didn't take long before the trail reminded us where we were. Tracks everywhere. Grizzly, wolverine, moose, caribou. Sylvia rode quiet for a while, watching, taking it in. Then she said, "Feels like we're being watched." I gave a small nod. We are. That didn't bother her. Not the way it might some people. But she respected it. We camped that night near Old Man Creek. Simple camp. Quick meal. Later, Jerry spotted 4 ducks. Sylvia watched them settle in the water as the light faded. "Still something peaceful out here," she said. Sometimes I answered, but even as I said it, I knew that peace doesn't last long. August 30th. Morning came colder. More traffic on the trail now. Hunters moving through. By midday, the rain turned. Snow. Not heavy, but enough. Up on the ridges, the wind picked up, blowing it sideways. We kept moving. Stopped at noon. Boiled tea. Ate cookies. By then, the cold had worked its way in. Sylvia wrapped her hand around the cup. "Feels early for this," she said. "It is," I told her. But that didn't change anything. We pressed on. Then the cat went down again. Bog. Deep. I felt it drop before I saw it. "Hold up," I called. Jerry brought the buggy in. Winched it out. We got moving again. But not long after. Another problem. The buggy. Winch under strain. Fan driven forward. Straight into the radiator. I heard it before I saw it. That sound. Metal where it shouldn't be. Then steam. Sylvia stepped closer. "How bad?" I shook my head. "Bad enough we're not going anywhere tonight. Water gone. Antifreeze gone. That was it. We made camp right there. No choice. Cold settling in. Snow still coming light. Sylvia set up what she could. Got the stove going. Made something warm. We ate quiet. After a while, she said, "We'll figure it out." I looked at her. Even then, even there. "You always think that," I said. She met my eyes. "Because we always do." I didn't answer, but I held on to that. Because the truth was, things were starting to stack up. More than I liked. And out there, when too many things go wrong at once, that's when you find out what it's really going to cost you. August 31 SD was coming. Into part 4. Part 5. You just keep moving. September 18th to September 28th, 1979. Tuesday, September 18th, 1979. By the time Henry got back from the Yukon, I was running on habit more than strength. You don't always notice it happening. You just keep going, and then one morning you realize your body isn't keeping up the way it used to. Henry came in late, dusty and tired, but already talking about the next job. "We'll get your cat parts together," he said. "Go back and finish it." I nodded. That was always the plan. Finish it. That same day, Henry got a call about a pickup stuck out in the swamp, and I rode along with him in the wrecker. Didn't think much of it, just another job. Until we got there. I looked at the truck, then at the driver. "Jerry," I said. He turned, blinked once, and then laughed. "Norm." Turned out he was the son of an old friend from Minnesota, Leonard Berg. Out here, in the middle of Alaska, in a swamp that had no business holding a pickup. That's how the North works sometimes. You think you're alone, and then you're not. That night, back at the lodge, I worked on the buggy generator again. It still wasn't right. Nothing ever stayed fixed long. Sylvia came out after supper, wiped her hands on a towel, and leaned against the door frame watching me. "You gonna fight that thing all night?" she asked. "Maybe," I said. She studied me for a moment. "You're not healing," she said quietly. I didn't answer, because she was right. Wednesday, September 19th. I helped Tim with his truck, gave him a set of chains, and did a few small jobs around the place. Nothing heavy, just enough to stay useful. That's something a man holds on to when he's hurt. Usefulness. That evening, I went down to the lodge. Dan Billman was there, and I paid him for the flying he'd done for us. We sat for a while, talking with the others. Stories mostly. That's what fills the evenings up here. Stories and the understanding that everyone's earned them. Thursday, September 20th. Henry and Tim headed back to the Yukon. That left me in charge of the gas station. Between customers, I roofed the well house, worked on a snowmobile, fixed tires, and helped a man put an axle into a travelall. Just steady work. the kind that keeps your hands busy and your mind quiet. Sylvia kept the place moving in her way. Cooking, cleaning, talking with travelers, making something like a home out of a place that wasn't meant to be one. That mattered more than anything. Friday, September 21st. I made a storm window for the lodge. The air had started to change. You could feel winter thinking about coming. That night, I tended bar. Didn't think I'd ever do that in Alaska. But there I was pouring drinks for hunters, truckers, and a few locals who knew more than they said. Sylvia stayed nearby, keeping an eye on things. She always did. Saturday, September 22nd. Rain again. It came in steady and quiet, like it had all summer. I worked on reinforcing part of the swamp buggy until the weather pushed me out of it. Sometimes the weather wins. You learn to accept that. Sunday, September 23rd. We finished the buggy work. Or as finished as anything ever gets out here. Later, I went with Tim to help put in a driveway. Simple job. Good to do something that didn't fight back. Monday, September 24th. I cleaned up the station, straightened tools, checked supplies. Routine. Routine is a kind of rest. That afternoon, we got a call from Roger Schiekenbach in Minnesota. Good news. I don't remember exactly what he said, just that it lifted something. Sometimes that's enough. Tuesday, September 25th. We hauled trash, moved poles, got wood ready for heating. Winter work. Even if it wasn't winter yet. Sylvia stayed busy all day. I remember watching her for a moment, just moving from one task to the next without stopping. Same as me. Different work. Same weight. Wednesday, September 26th. Didn't do much. Some days are like that. Took the swamp buggy up Slide Mountain. Got stuck. Winched out. Got stuck again. That was the pattern. We walked part of the way to look for fossils. That mountain used to be called Fossil Mountain before the state changed the name. Didn't stop people from looking. Didn't stop us either. Standing up there, looking out over that country. You could forget, for a minute, how hard everything had been. Thursday, September 27th. Cut wood. Covered windows with visqueen. Cold was coming. No doubt about it now. That night, Sylvia said, almost to herself, "We'll be ready." I looked at her. "You always are," I said. She didn't answer, but she smiled a little. Friday, September 28th, 1979. That day reminded me that even the easy jobs can turn. Tim and I went to pick up a bus with the wrecker. Old school bus, used to haul produce around. Looked worn, but solid enough. We got moving, slow and steady. Everything seemed fine. Then, about a mile from the lodge, there was a sound, a sharp, cracking bang. The whole bus lurched. I saw it in the mirror. A wheel had come clean off. Not just loose. Gone. The axle dropped, tore up through the floor of the bus, splintering wood and metal as it went. The whole thing sagged and twisted like it was giving up. Tim eased the wrecker to a stop. We climbed out, walked back, and just stood there looking at it. "Well," he said finally, "that's not ideal." I shook my head. "No," I said, "it isn't. It took a long time to get that bus the rest of the way. Piece by piece. Careful. Slow. By the time we got back to the lodge, it was late. Sylvia had supper ready. Huh. Simple. Exactly what we needed. I sat down slow. Everything in me hurt. She set a plate in front of me, then rested her hand on my shoulder for just a second. Not long. Didn't need to be. "You're wearing down," she said quietly. I looked at the food, then at my hands, then up at her. "Yeah," I said. She nodded, not surprised. "Then we better not stop," she said. And that was it. Because out here, stopping wasn't an option. Part 6. What it takes. September 29th to September 30th, 1979. Saturday, September 29th, 1979. We started early. Still dark enough that the air had a bite to it. You could see your breath when you talked. Tim and I fueled up the swamp buggy, loaded what we needed, tools, food chain, and pointed it back toward the little Nelchina. Back toward the cat. Back toward everything we'd left unfinished. Sylvia stood outside the lodge as we pulled out. She didn't say much. She never did in moments like that. Just watched. "You'll be back tonight?" she asked. I shook my head. "No. Might take longer." She nodded once. "Then take your time," she said. That was her way. Never asking you to rush something that couldn't be rushed. We made good time at first. The trail was familiar now. Too familiar. About 2/3 of the way in, the ground gave way. The buggy dropped into a swamp hole, so fast it felt like the earth had opened up under us. Mud came up around the sides. Thick, black, alive. Well, Tim said, looking around, we found the bad spot. I climbed out, boots sinking halfway to my knees. We'll get out, I said. I had 280 feet of cable on that winch. Figured that'd be enough for anything. Tim took the line out to a tree. Good-looking tree. Solid. We tightened the line, started the pull, and the tree came out of the ground. Roots and all. Tim just stood there, holding the cable. Well, he said again, quieter this time. I wiped the mud off my hands. Let's try another one. We ran the cable almost all the way out. Found a bigger tree. Older. Deep-rooted. That one held. The winch groaned. Cable stretched. Mud sucked at the tracks. Slowly, inch by inch, the buggy came free. You don't celebrate things like that out here. You just nod and keep going. By the time we reached the river, the light was already starting to fade. We pushed upstream toward the old town site, toward the cat. And there it was, right where we'd left it, waiting. That evening, first thing I checked was the pony motor. That's when I saw it. The cold had gotten to it. There was a crack in the cast plate in the water jacket. Split clean. I ran my hand over it. Wet. Leaking. Frozen, I said. Tim leaned in beside me. Can we fix it? I thought about it for a moment, then nodded. We can make it work. That's all we ever aimed for. Not perfect. Working. We got the track pin driven in. Took time. Took effort. But I had that tool I'd made. And without it, we wouldn't have managed. We walked over to the old town site before dark. Just for a few minutes. Old sleds. Rushed. Pieces of cabins sinking back into the ground. People had lived there once. Worked. Struggled. Same as us. Then we went back, cooked supper, and turned in early. I lay there in the sleeping bag, listening to the quiet, thinking how many times we'd been stopped, and how we kept going anyway. Sunday, September 30th, 1979. Morning came cold and clear. We finished what needed finishing. Got the track set right. Checked everything twice. Then we started downriver. The cat moved steady, strong again. We passed a meat pole where some hunters had left a caribou hanging. Tim went over, gave it a look, sniffed it. Spoiled. There was a sign nailed nearby. Take the meat if you want it. No one's taking that, Tim said. We moved on. Further down, near an old cabin, the pony motor gave me trouble again. Wouldn't start. I pulled the carburetor apart, cleaned it right there, hands stiff from the cold. Put it back together. Tried again. This time it caught. That's how it went. Every mile earned. Midday, we reached the junction near Old Man Creek. Closed now. And then, just like that, Henry and Ken showed up. Timing like that, you don't question it. You just accept it. They've been up in the Yukon. Brought back stories and mastodon tusks. Actual tusks. Felt like we were stepping out of one world and into another. At the highway, we loaded the cat onto the trailer. Got everything tied down. Started toward Nelchina. And then, a state trooper pulled us over. He walked around the whole rig. Slow. Taking it all in. Finally, he stopped and looked at me. Whose outfit is this? He asked. Mine, I said. He nodded. I could write several tickets for what I see here. I didn't argue. Didn't try to explain too much. We're just coming out from the backcountry, I said. Haven't had a chance to fix everything yet. He pointed. No mud flaps. Trailer floor's rough. I nodded. The cat did that. He looked at me for a long second. Then he sighed. Well, he said, you can go on. And that was that. That evening, Nelchina. We pulled into the lodge tired. Quiet. Everything back. Everything accounted for. Trip over. Sylvia came out when she heard us. Walked up to the truck. Looked at me. You made it, she said. I nodded. Yeah, I said. We did. She looked past me at the cat. At the mud. At the where. Then back at me again. How bad was it, she asked. I thought about it. All of it. The river. The cold. The breakdowns. The bear. The walking. The weight of it all. Then I shook my head a little. Just about right, I said. She smiled at that. Because she understood. Closing reflection. Looking back on that stretch now. It wasn't one thing that made it hard. It was all of it. Layer on layer. Day after day. Things breaking. Weather turning. Body wearing down. And still, you get up. You fix what you can. You go again. That's what it takes. Not strength. Not luck. Just the willingness to keep moving. End of episode 3. You've been listening to the Alaska Diaries, 10,000 Days. If you are enjoying Norman and Sylvia's journey, be sure to like and subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter when it comes out. Also, consider sharing it with someone who might also appreciate it. If you're thinking about getting Norman's 3-volume book series on which this story is based, go to 10,000daysinaalaska.com for more info. Until next time, the road continues.